Look, there's a lot out there that says that if there's no reason for you to be in physical pain, it must just all be in your head. But not so fast. In this video, I'm going to dig into the neuroscience behind psychosomatic pain symptoms to show you how pain really works in your brain and why you're not imagining things. I've literally done thousands of sessions with clients, and one of the things that comes up over and over and over again is that if there's no structural medical reason that is found for someone's pain, a lot of times people tell me, oh, my doctor just told me it's all in my head. But I just haven't found that to be completely true. So we're gonna get that straightened out for you today. I'm Sukie Baxter, founder of Whole Body Revolution, where I help you to rewire yourself for greater health, happiness, and success by breaking the pattern of pain, stress, and tension in your body and in your life. If you're new here, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the bell to get notified so you never miss a video update. And all of the things that I mentioned in this video, you can find linked in the description box below. Let's get into it. So before we get into psychosomatic pain symptoms, I just want to tell you a quick story about someone who came to me who had had a very minor fall. This person had tried to sit down in a chair and missed and fallen on the floor. Now, that's painful, of course, but it's not a major accident. It's not a car accident. Nothing major was broken or damaged, but this person had tremendous pain resulting from this accident, and it wasn't going away. And this person had gone to doctors and been told over and over again that they were making their pain up, that it was all in their head. Basically, you're hysterical, or you're a hypochondriac, but this isn't real because we can't find an injury to explain why you hurt. And while the situation is different, a lot of times, this is a pattern that I've seen over and over and over again with people where they have either a very minor injury, but pain that doesn't seem to match, or they have an injury that is long healed, and yet they have continuing pain, and so they assume that that injury somehow damaged or broke them in some way that will never be repaired. So I wanted to explain what's going on here and why this pain isn't just imaginary or made up and you're not crazy. So unfortunately, our medical system exists within a type of model that focuses on something called mind-body dualism, or Cartesian duality, which is basically this idea that your mind and body are separate and that they can function independently of one another. Now, if you went to most medical doctors and told that to them and said, can your mind and body function independently? They would be like, well, of course not. But this idea is so pervasive that it permeates every area of our lives. It's just how we treat ourselves. It's a lot of mind over matter. We have mental health and physical health. They are separate branches of medicine. Oftentimes one is covered by insurance and the other is not covered by insurance for some strange reason. And usually if there is a problem that cannot be diagnosed at the body level, i.e. pain, that doesn't seem to have an injury or structural cause, a person is referred to someone to kind of work out their emotions from a thought-based place. Like, what are you thinking in your head that's causing this pain? And so there's this divide between your mind and body in the way that these symptoms are treated, which is why pain is often relegated to this realm of being called psychosomatic, i.e. you're making it up. But let's quickly talk about what exactly is a brain. Now that sounds like a really weird question. Why would we talk about what is a brain? It's this, lump of gray matter that exists between my ears and it's inside my skull. That's what a brain is, right? Well, yeah, that's what we're taught a brain is, but let me ask you this. Where does your brain end, right? So you might say it ends at the base of your skull, but really, when we look at that and you notice that that gray matter condenses down, there's no separation, there's no gap between your spinal cord and your brain. It's that neural matter that condenses down into the rope of your spinal cord that then runs between your vertebra. Now, all of those nerves, your spinal cord has all these little tiny nerves that branch out and connect to all of your muscles and your organs and your bones and all kinds of things everywhere in your body. So this is another artifice of our modern medical system, is this idea of separate entities. You see it in everything. For example, what is a neck? When people come in and say my neck hurts, I always have them point to it, or their hip. What are you calling a hip? And where does that actually start and stop? Where does your neck start and stop? Because if we look at, for example, the muscles of your neck, some of them attach to your skull, some of them attach to your clavicle, which is down here, some attach to your ribs, some attach to your shoulders. Those are neck muscles, but they are also shoulder muscles. So where do we delineate between a neck and a rib, neck and a shoulder? These boundaries are artificial. They're basically, what do they call them? Artifacts of a scalpel is what I've heard people call them. It's basically somebody going in and cutting and saying, this is where we're going to call the end point. Well, the same is true with your brain. We've decided that our brains exist inside of our skull, and there's a lot of neural activity going on inside of our skull, but there's also neural activity going on in our bodies. This is a concept called the distributed brain, meaning your brain is not just here, but it's distributed throughout your entire body. So you are actually thinking with your whole body, not just the space that's between your ears. And you're not just thinking at the level of conscious thought in language, you're actually thinking in sensory terms. You're thinking at these very deep biological levels that you would probably call your subconscious mind. So now let's talk about pain in your brain. So again, with this mind-body dualism thing, there seems to be this idea that you have like physical pain, and that's something you treat with medicine, surgeries, drugs, physical therapy, things like that. And then there's emotional pain, which is sort of this thing where we have to like untangle your thoughts and beliefs about yourself. But it's a lot more nuanced and a lot more overlapped than that, because when you have, for example, a heartbreak, when you have a rejection, a social emotional rejection of some kind, the same area of your brain that would be involved in physical pain actually lights up. So emotional pain is the same, biologically speaking, as physical pain. Even though somebody didn't actually cut you or hit you, it's the same inside of yourself as if they had. And studies have actually shown that taking Tylenol, which is a pain relieving drug, after a heartbreak can actually reduce emotional pain in people who have faced social rejection. So it's not one or the other, they're actually crossing over. And according to Dr. David Hanscom, who wrote a book called, I believe, Back in Control, I'll link to that in the description box below, it's a really great book. He talks about how physical pain that is prolonged for any length of time will eventually light up emotional pain centers as well. So even if it's physical pain, it's not very long either, I don't remember the exact duration, but physical pain for any duration of time will eventually trigger an emotional response in your brain, an emotional pain response. So it's not like there's physical pain and there's emotional pain and they're completely separate processes. They're much more interrelated and much more nuanced than we generally treat them.
Is this explanation of how pain works making sense to you? If so, write nerve in the comments below this video. So back to psychosomatic pain symptoms. There's just so much crossover between physical and emotional pain that it is impossible to separate them. So remember, this isn't something that you're making up. It's not imagined. It's not a story you're telling yourself. It's an actual physiological process that's happening inside of your body. So when your nervous system is in any kind of heightened state of alert, any kind of a threat state, which I talk about in my video on polyvagal theory, which I will link in the description box below, when it's in one of those survival states, it is sensitized to pain. Now, this can happen as the result of an injury, even if it looks like that injury has already healed. It can happen as a result of an emotional experience, an emotional injury. We talk a lot about, I feel like I was stabbed in the back. Things like that are actual physical explanations of the emotional pain that we experience. It's because it has a physical impact on us. It can happen because of traumatic experiences, big T trauma, little t trauma, and it can happen because of neural states that we have inherited or learned from caregivers and communities. So if you are someone who has a genetic lineage of trauma where maybe nothing specific happened to you, or maybe it did, but if things had happened to your lineage, your ancestors, the people in your past, those things can be passed down into your nervous system and put you at a heightened threat state, which means that you are already starting out sensitized to pain. So the answer here isn't necessarily to work out your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs about what's going on in your life or to manage your stress, but really we need to create that biological foundation of safety in your nervous system, because somewhere along the line it got ruptured. It could have been the actual injury that you suffered, like I said, or it could have already been dysregulated at the time of the injury. So for example, the person that I talked about at the beginning of this video who had a relatively minor fall, a relatively minor injury, but had a lot of pain after that, had a sensitized nervous system. Now, I don't know why that was. I don't know everything about their history, and I don't know what may have happened to put them in that state. That's the really cool thing. I actually don't have to know what happened. I work with the evidence of what happened in the person's body, and we were able to fairly quickly decrease this person's level of pain when we just dealt with the biological level of dysregulation. So how do we actually do that? How do we discharge stored stress from your nervous system, bring you back to that regulated state, and get you out of pain if that's what's going on for you? Well, like I said, we need to create a felt sense of safety. So this isn't about telling you that you're safe. This isn't about believing that you're safe, like up here believing. It's not about mantras. It's not about affirmations. All those things are great. I love all that stuff, all the positive psychology, and all of that is really awesome stuff. But a lot of people do those things and they still can't quite get past whatever it is they're trying to get past, whether that's pain or something else. And the reason is that this biological level hasn't been addressed. So we create a felt sense of safety in your body, and we do that through sensory input, through giving your body new input at the sensory level. It's really about connecting to that biological part of you. So one of the ways that I do this is through a coupling of novel sensory input, which I mentioned before, which is basically just giving your body new sensory information, and embodied movement practices, somatosensory movement practices, where we are moving and being really aware and coupling our perception of ourselves, our perception of our bodies with what our bodies are saying. But there actually are other ways that you can discharge stored stress from your body. So for example, Dr. Hanscom, who wrote that book that I mentioned earlier and that I will link to below, he really is a proponent of something called expressive writing, which is where you take a piece of paper and you just write out everything that's bothering you, and you can do this for maybe 15 minutes, and you do it every day. And then this isn't about journaling, because that's a little bit different. Usually people are journaling to record things. This is actually about discharging. So you take a piece of paper and you write everything out, and then when you're done, you tear it up, you throw it away, you can burn it, you can do whatever, but you basically get rid of it. So there's actually no attachment to the emotions. Personally, I like to take this one level deeper, because when you are writing, you are still at the level of language in your brain, and even writing something out is a very habitual, routinized neuromuscular habit. So in order to break up habits even more, I am a big fan of art journaling, which is really very similar. It's just taking some paper and making a mess on it. I will probably do a video about art journaling in the future. There's lots of great resources out there, and I will link to some of my favorite resources in the description box below. But the reason that I like art journaling just a little bit better than expressive writing is because it gets us into that embodied place. It gets us into that non-linear part of our brain, where the things that don't actually even have words connected to them, they're just the emotion, sensory emotion, have space to come out, and they don't necessarily have to mean anything. Now, I know you're probably thinking like, I'm not an artist, or I'm not good at art, or whatever. That's actually better, because if you are an artist, then you have a lot of habitual patterns about how you draw, paint, whatever it is that you do, that then you would have to break up to sort of get into that loose place. This is actually about getting into something where you do have less control, and it actually isn't about what you produce so much as it is about the act of expression. So like I said, I will do a whole other video on art journaling in the future, but those are a few of the practices that I like to employ in order to discharge this stress and anxiety and get you back to that regulated state. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. Remember to subscribe and click the bell so you never miss a video update. If you'd like to talk about this further or take the conversation further, get to know each other a little bit better, come hang out with me on Instagram. I am at Sukie Baxter, and I hope to see you there. You're welcome to pop into my DMs and shoot me a message, ask me any questions. I do read my DMs, I do read my questions, and I would love to make videos about things that are interesting to you. So if you have a question, let me know. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next one.